Good morning, everyone. This is Jeff from the Cyber Pro podcast. Today, my guest is John Brown. As it so clearly says on the screen, we're going to get into a little bit more about what he does in a moment. But with that, John, good morning. How are you? Tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do.
Hey, yeah, it's nice to be here and thanks for having me. My name is John Brown. I'm the VP of Technology and Cybersecurity at Interlace.io. We help clients who are looking to dig in and deliver comprehensive and robust cybersecurity programs for their businesses, whether they're a small business, whether they're a mid-size or enterprise business. We could help them find a program that works for them. So really excited to be here, talk about it.
Excellent. We spoke a little bit before we started recording about your path and your journey to where you are today. And we learned that your previous company, of which you were the founder and CEO of, was acquired by Interlace. So number one, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
And number two, being an experienced entrepreneur / CEO and having your company acquired, what do you find to be the most fascinating aspect of being a cyber professional in this time of age, and especially from, where you're coming from your path of your own company to a larger company?
Right. Yeah, those are great questions. So when, we're based in the Washington, D.C. area. So I think because of the market that we're in, we have a little bit of an edge on cybersecurity demand and needs in our specific markets. So when I started my business in 2014, and I was looking for a competitive edge or for my business as an IT services company, cybersecurity was definitely something that a lot of other IT services companies are doing, but not doing well, right? They were offering email security and then saying, hey, you have a cybersecurity program. It's like, no, cybersecurity is really a journey. It's something that you practice. It's not something that you wake up one day and say, oh, I have to do this in order to check a checkbox and then move on and forget about it. It really is something that should shape the way you make decisions and run your business. So that was really how I started focusing on cybersecurity and bringing that to market. Around the same time, CMMC really became a big requirement, obviously, in the DC area. There were a lot of rumors that this was going to be happening. The one thing I really love about CMMC specifically is that it's called out as a maturity model, right? It's not a framework. It's based off of NIST 800-171. So it's got a lot of good best practices baked right in there, but they're really focusing on the journey. They're focusing on maturity over compliance, which I really, really love. And so getting to a point where I was using that model, I was helping organizations get compliant. I was talking about maturity over compliance. Naturally, that business started growing, a lot of word of mouth growth in business coming in, which was really, really awesome to see. So from 2014 to 2018, we grew about 50%. 2018 to 2022, we exited with Interlaced. And the goal there was really me and my drive to build a large nationwide company, getting to a point where I scaled the company to a certain size and then trying to get over that hump. As an entrepreneur, that's always the challenging part, right? How do I raise the capital to continue growing? It takes money to grow. And as a services company, any dip in sales, any dip in revenue is really hard to predict. So you really need to have a good financial backing. It's really challenging to find good financial backing as a services company, though, because it's a very risky business model. And so we found an awesome partnership with Interlace.io. They were firmly cemented out on the West Coast, doing a lot of the same stuff, IT services, cybersecurity, etc. And we're firmly planted on the East Coast. And together we're building a nationwide brand, which is really, really exciting. From the perspective of like cybersecurity, from a hyper local perspective to now a nationwide perspective. So the thing that I find really fascinating and interesting is just the wider range of companies that that you never really interacted with, just being in the Washington, D.C. area, right? A lot of health technology in California, a lot of really interesting industries in the Midwest. We're seeing a lot of amazing things happening down south in manufacturing and retail. And all of these things, they touch into cybersecurity in different ways. A lot of it dovetails right back to CMMC, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's a good ending because that slides right into question number 4, right?
Mm.
We were going to talk about how to break into CMMC as a value add to any business or career. And you just spewed off a number of different geographical as well as business verticals that are all going to benefit from CMMC. So for somebody who's looking at our podcast going, is CMMC worth me digging into? How does this person get started? And what are the benefits to doing so?
Yeah, I think the one thing I love about CMMC is it's super approachable, right? You don't need to be a cybersecurity professional, you don't need to have a CISP, you don't need to pass your A+ certification. CMMC accreditation body is an organization, it's a nonprofit organization that's created by the DoD, and anybody can go there right now, cmmcab.org, $500. They have a self-paced training program, and anyone can learn how to be a registered practitioner. This is really, really important because as CMMC rolls out and as more contracts embrace this model, and as it becomes more of a standard, right now the government is kind of testing it, but as it becomes a standard, we're going to see a need for people who can actually be practitioners of this model, right? And everyone running out and getting their CISP, that's not a really realistic approach to making sure that we have enough talent in the cybersecurity space. So in my humble opinion, CMMC is a great entry level way to get your hands dirty and learn cybersecurity in a really great way where it's not focused on compliance, it's focused on maturity. And if you can start your journey thinking about security in that way, you're going to be really successful.
Bonus question. We'll come back to that one in a second. Let's wrap up the podcast with a final question, a fun question we like to ask. Being a technologist and a professional in this industry, when you look back on earlier, tell us a little bit about your favorite piece of retro technology and why it makes you still smile.
Yeah. All right. So it has to be the original Nintendo. And the reason why I think that just resonates with so many people. But as a kid growing up, my parents never, ever allowed us to have any video games in the house. So I always had to go to my friend's house to play, but they only ever had one controller. They just had the one controller that came with the game. And so oftentimes I would just be sitting there watching my friend play and die, and that's my turn. So it's just kind of that memory of that just makes me smile, because it takes you back to a time where it was a video game, but it was still interactive, and I still had to go somewhere and interact with someone to play it. So
yeah, it's always fun to watch a friend die.
That's right.
John, thanks for being on the podcast. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching the Cyber Pro podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on new podcasts and bonus content.